Tesla billionaire Elon Musk got salty with Senator Bernie Sanders on Twitter yesterday over the issue of taxes. This comes after Musk dumped over $6 billion in Tesla stock at the end of last week. That amounts to less than 4% of his ownership in the company.
So after Bernie tweeted, quote, "We must demand that the extremely wealthy pay their fair share," he clearly struck a nerve with Musk, who replied, quote, "I keep forgetting that you're still alive." Musk later added, "Want me to sell more stock, Bernie? Just say the word." And, quote, "Bernie is a taker, not a maker." Ryan,
Sick burns.
Sick
burns.
Absolutely destroyed. So Elon Musk is obviously sort of eccentric, and that's part of his brand, and his Twitter account is always weird and jumping around, and it does really affect the prices, and it actually really has an impact on the valuation of his company. What did you think? Is there an alternative motive, an ulterior motive to his squabble with Bernie Sanders? Because he picked the fight. Like, he went after Bernie Sanders. Why do you think he's doing that?
Well, yes, and what the Musk fans need to realize is that he kind of set his fans up a week ago or so, whenever he put up that poll that said, should I sell 10% of my stock? Because I forget the precise reason that he needed to sell stock, but he needed to sell stock. Like, he needed access to that capital. And so he was going to sell it anyway. And he assumed his people would be like, yeah, sell it. And if they say no, he can still sell it. It's not like he can't. And by allowing his fan base to weigh in on whether or not he should sell it, then it looks less strange when all of a sudden he's dumping, a massive amount of his stock, because, if the biggest shareholder dumps 4% of their holdings, then you start to have people be like, oh no, why is he dumping? Does he know something that we don't know? And you could have a run on it, and if it drops 10%, he loses $50 billion or whatever, whatever he loses. And so I'm sure he was on the phone with his accountant, and his accountant was letting him know, okay, now that you've sold this, your long-term capital gain rate is 20% because you make more than $500,000 a year, or you do now that you've sold this stock. Mm-hmm. And he starts doing the math on what 20% of that is, and he's salty. Mm-hmm. He doesn't want to share that. He very genuinely feels like the government is incompetent and will be unable to do what he thinks the government ought to do, which is get to Mars.
But Tesla is highly subsidized by the government.
And and bailed out by the Department of Energy, and that's before we even get to SpaceX, which is almost entirely funded by the federal government.
But that's the thing.
The whole thing is hilarious.
So you can be a taker and a maker, and that's what Elon Musk is. But he's setting himself up as the champion of this binary where you are either a taker or a maker, and that's not the case in his own. I mean, he is the poster child for why that's a false dichotomy and a reductive dichotomy. And to see him, I think, wield that against Bernie Sanders, I sort of wonder if he's blind to his own complicity in that system that he claims to decry. Because when and I think that's true, because crony capitalists see themselves actually just as capitalists. They see themselves as being sort of entitled to the government funds and partners. And
he got that money from the government because he deserved it.
Right.
He worked for it.
It's called being a taker, though.
Right.
It's quite literally being a taker.
Took money from the government, and the government took that. Well, they didn't, because that's not how dollars are created. But anyway, right. And so yes, he took all that direct money, and also the structure of the way that the government structures the American economy, and allowing PayPal and eBay, to patent the things that are quite basic.
Yeah.
Like you're going to patent moving money around on the internet. A great idea. Incredible. Nobody thought of that before.
Right.
So here's your 1,000 patents for these that's then going to make it much more difficult for people to get in and compete with you in time, to stave off you reaching scale.
Yeah.
So his wealth creation throughout his entire life has been dependent on either direct government money or the way that the government structures the economy.
Also known in his own definition as taking.
Right, and now he has to, pay a little bit in
Yeah.
He's not pleased that Bernie's still alive.
Well, that's the funny thing. Yeah, not that he's still alive. But the funny thing is, a lot of takers actually should really love like Democratic establishment politicians, like the Chuck Schumers of the world, like the Nancy Pelosi's of the world. They actually really love big government leftists because they take a lot. They get a lot of subsidies from big government programs, and the more big government programs we create, the more there is for them to take. And that's always an interesting thing because Bernie Sanders is an anti-cronyist. And we were kind of talking about this earlier when it comes to like Tulsi Gabbard. Like there's an interesting overlap that I think Democrats should explore more and more, or progressives should explore more and more, sort of divorcing themselves from. Yeah. But a lot going on in just so few words over Elon Musk's Twitter account.
Yeah. In the end, though, I'm happy about it because if Elon Musk can convince the conservative wing of our country that the way to own the libs is by buying electric vehicles, then that will all be worth it. Because if that had been polarized differently, it's that buying, and it very easily could have polarized around the idea that the only people who are going to get electric vehicles are liberals.
Yeah.
Just the way that Priuses became kind of stand-ins for latte drinking, Prius driving liberals. If that had been the case, then tens of millions of people who otherwise would have bought electric vehicles because it's smarter and like they're more efficient and forget the climate change implications would never have even considered them. So if Elon Musk's Twitter account is driving right-wingers to buy electric vehicles to own the libs, it's worth it. Also, it's kind of entertaining.
Yeah, it might be working. It might be working. So tomorrow on Rising, Team Rising will be here. They're also going to join to discuss the biggest news of the day.
And we're excited to welcome Batya Ungar-Sargon back to the show. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. We'll see you all tomorrow.